Hello, welcome to another fun and exciting episode of Diary of an Unemployed Actor with me, Milo Dennison. Today, I'm speaking with Brian Patacca. Brian has helped over 542 actors find representation. This includes Tony Award winners, Broadway stars, network series regulars, filmmakers, etc., etc. He has done this through his masterclass, Make Agents Want You, which we get into quite a bit in this discussion. It's all about agents, managers, and finding the best representation to work with for you. So if you are looking for representation, or even if you have representation now and you're wondering, hey, is this person still the right fit for me? Maybe it's not working out. This is the episode to listen to. We go into a lot here, so you might have to listen to this episode more than once, but believe me, it is absolutely worth it. We talk about differences between agents and managers, like I mentioned, finding the one that's right for you, and what you should look for in representation. A quick call out, you will hear something that sounds like complaining cats in the background or angry cats. They're actually peacocks. So if you hear a peacock, don't worry, it's just a peacock. You've definitely helped a lot of people with finding agents and that kind of stuff. So I think that's why you're a great person to talk to on this subject. But first, before we get into that, what's the difference between an agent and a manager? Because a lot of people are always talking about, got to get an agent, got to get an agent. You don't hear a lot of people talking about, got to get a manager.
You know, I wish a lot more people would. And I hope that I can dispel some of the myth around that right now in this conversation. So an agent and manager used to be very different. A manager would be someone who you think of being like having a hot air balloon or a helicopter view of what's going on in your career, kind of all the different pieces of your career, whether that would be voiceover and commercials and maybe doing print and also theatrical, right? The manager having that, and then also a manager holding the vision for a longer career as opposed to just what's in the day-to-day. That used to be all that managers did. Very much a negotiator in that way, helping you like make decisions like, we're not going to take that job because we want to take this job in the future, that kind of category. Now, a manager still can do that and function in that way. But nowadays, managers submit actors for jobs in very much the same way that actors do. So they are looking at breakdowns and submitting actors to get auditions all the time. So that's what an agent does, right? They submit they're getting the breakdowns and they're submitting an actor to go in for auditions or send in a self-tape. Now, the big difference that I like to really pinpoint for people is, or to highlight for people is, a manager is their own boss. So what that means is, if I'm my own boss, I can decide I want to spend time on this totally green actor because I believe in them, because it's my company and I get to do what I dang want to do. If I'm an agent, I'm working for someone else typically. And so I have to show some numbers at the end of the week, at the end of the quarter. I need to show that my clients are actually booking. Now, that isn't to reduce acting to commerce or to just being about money. Agents certainly have a lot of stake and care about the artistry and care about actors, but they do have a bottom line that they usually have to deliver on a little bit more than a manager. Now, let me pull back a little bit. The manager is their own boss still. So that means the manager is paying themselves. So the manager does still care about booking, but they get to be a little more autonomous with their time. So often I will find that a new actor is reaching out to a lot of agents when in fact, an agent might not be a good match because you don't have maybe the credits that agent would need to see for that agent to believe that they can get the numbers that they need. Whereas a manager can be a little more, I want to say risky. I don't think it's a risk, but I put that in quotes, risky, where they can take a little bit more of a chance. So I don't believe that there's a time when you're ready for a manager and then ready for an agent. I think if you're an actor who has done some training, who knows how to act, there is a manager or an agent at the level you are at right now that could be helping you get more auditions. I think we tend to think, I got to have that next big job or that next footage or that next thing. But I actually do believe that where you are at right now, there is a manager or agent who's very happy with exactly what's on your resume and exactly what you've accomplished. And then your job is just to end up in front of their faces, right? For us to connect them to you.
Would you pitch yourself differently if pitching to a manager versus an agent?
I want to say no, but I'm going to give you a tiny caveat. On first glance, no. On second glance, if you were pitching yourself to theatrical or legit agent, they're probably not going to care about your voiceover and commercial career, right? We don't need to maybe pump that up in there. However, a manager would, because that's something they would help you with. So where you might leave something out of a conversation when you'd be reaching out to an agent, you would 100% want to include it in a manager conversation. Now, I want to just, I have an entire course devoted to helping you write these kind of emails. Yeah. So I want to just also make sure we don't skip this. There's some real magic, I think, to be pulled from. Let's pretend you're an actor who's booking commercials all the time, or even once in a while, and you're not getting, but you don't have a theatrical agent. Well, don't discount all that commercial work, because the truth is, if you are booking a lot of commercials, that says your type is wanted right now on TV, and that you're a peggable type, that people understand what you are, because we know commercials are 30 seconds or a minute long. We're trying to get the story in a short amount of time. So that means you really understand your type, and so does a part of the business. So while I'm saying a manager may care about that more, I wouldn't leave that incredible win or incredible feedback you're getting from the business. I wouldn't hide that from the theatrical agent. I just wouldn't make it, headline news in that one. I might make it a little more simply stated. So that's big picture. The only change is managers and agents will care about the other stuff. Like a manager would also, I've had a few clients, I think in my client Caroline, she really wanted a manager who cared about the fact that she created content. A lot of agents will not have the capacity to care about that. They might care about it, they might emotionally care about it, but they're not going to necessarily be able to use that for what they're trying to do at their desks. Whereas a manager might be like, great, I want to help you pitch a project, or we've got a production company attached, or that kind of stuff. So a manager is more likely to be someone who would do that piece of it. So I also think that's one more thing you want to make sure you're sharing with a manager if you're pitching yourself. And again, I want to make sure each thing I've said about what a manager would care about, I'm putting in quotes, an agent can care about it. You just need to help the agent. That's the big trick here, I think, when you're pitching yourself, is show them why they should care. So if you just say I booked a bunch of commercials, and they just like, cool, why do I care? Because you're not drawing the line for me that the reason why I should care is your type is castable right now, and televisions want to have you on them right now. For an easy way to say that. Or I'm creating content right now, and the reason you care about this agent is I've got a buttload of footage for us to use at any time you're going to pitch me, and it's right in the category of what I do. So you just kind of have to, I always say, make them understand why they should care. A lot of actors tend to reduce themselves to their receipts without explaining why this matters. And I think we tend to think, well, they know why. And I think you're giving people way too much credit, not because they're dumb, not because the agent or manager is dumb, but because everyone gets over 100 emails a day.
Yeah.
All of these agents and managers have kids, have wives, have boyfriends, girlfriends, people, are running around the same way, are working from home right now. And we need to be clear. I like to think of it as almost like instructions when you open one of those getting started guides, when you get a new iPhone or you get a TV or something. We need to walk them through why these things matter, not just telling them. And that, I think, is probably why I've seen so much success with the people that I work with, is because we're no longer just here's a list of things that I've done. Because I also believe when you pitch just the things you've done, it makes a manager or agent kind of fall in love with you as you are today on April 6th, whatever day it is. And so instead of falling in love with your future, and what we want a manager or agent to do is, oh my gosh, look what Milo has done so far. I can believe in what's next for him. Because if you got a manager who just loved you for your receipts, or you got an agent who was like, oh, I just like the credits they have right now, you can imagine that agent being very satisfied with the level that you're at. We're trying to capture the imagination of what's next for you. And I think that's where some actors can get challenged, because you have to believe into the idea that there is something next level for you. There's something next for you. I'm not talking about actors who are all, at the beginning stages of their career. I'm talking about the actors who've been series regulars that I've talked to, right? That I help with this process, right? So it's really being able to capture your story in a way, and your materials, and focus them in a way that says, here's what's going to happen next for Sarah. And that's why you want to meet with her. And if that's a journey you want to be on, then let's talk. As opposed to what I think actors generally do is puff themselves up to sound really, really, really good. And they've got it all going on. And hey, this train is moving. And if you want to get on now, because it's time to up level over here. And I think that is basically saying to the manager and agent, I don't need you. So I'm just letting you know things are really good over here. And it's just not true. It sounds delusional. You sound naive. You sound green, even if your credits aren't, because the truth is, that there are auditions you're never going to get without agents or managers, and you need that agent. And so I think speaking from the space of that vulnerability is why the people that I've worked with have seen success because they're willing to own, I've reached as far as I can. I'm now, this is as good as I can get. This is some things that have held me back. Here's why I think working with you would be a great idea. So
okay.
That was a long answer to a short question.
No, that's all right. That was very detailed. That's great. Can I ask one more question on the agent manager separation?
Please ask them all.
Also, when I think of an agent, I think they get paid that percentage of whatever when they book me for something. Towards a manager, I've always thought of they get like a regular salary. Is that still the case?
Because where would they get a salary from? They're still getting money
that's kind of I was wondering. So because if I reach out to a manager who is only getting paid if I'm getting booked, right?
Yeah.
Then it seems to me like they're in essence an agent with a little bit more. So why should they put in the extra work as a manager if they're getting the same percentage that an agent gets?
Right. So managers usually take more. They take 15%, where an agent takes 10%. Managers can take up to 20. I just want to make sure that everyone knows there's no rule
so
about.
If one says 20%, they can't be like, wait a minute, you can't do that.
Yes, managers can do what they want.
If they say 25%, should that?
I start to be like, you want to take 25 cents out of every dollar? That's a lot. I'm never going to live that seems a little sketch to me.
Yeah.
But I would say so. Let me see if I'm understanding your question correctly. Okay. First of all, is both of them could be taking a percentage from you at the same time. I'll just say this to just offer. Some people get really nervous about this because they get worried about the money they're going to be losing. I really want to believe in the idea that if you're with a manager or agent who's a good match, that they are going to be working for you and that they're going to be building relationships with whether you stay that manager or not in the future. That is something you've built and they've helped you do that. So I think it's worth the pay that they get from time to time when you book something. So I believe that. I also want to make sure everyone knows that a contract is the first step in a conversation around negotiation. It is not the last step. And a lot of actors will say, if I don't sign this contract as is, this manager is not going to work with me. My first manager-in-law, I'm not an actor anymore when I was acting, right? So I want to make sure everybody knows that. But when I was acting in LA and I came to my manager, she had this contract where she took, I think it was somewhere between 5 and 10% from commercials. And I had a full-on commercial career. I did not need any help. I didn't want her help. I was like, I make my money commercials. I don't need your help. And I was really nervous about asking, could we remove this thing? And so I remember I had to go in the meeting where I'm going to sign the papers. And I was like, call my friend beforehand, so would it be okay to remove the commission for commercials? She's like, totally. So of course the contract was the first step. Of course I'm allowed to ask for that. We have to start somewhere. So I always think the contract is like, oh, we have to start somewhere. So we're going to start with this contract and now we'll make adjustments to it. Now that is not to say every manager is going to be okay with that. Some manager might look at you and go, I actually think I'm going to have to put a lot of work in. This might be their thought. They might not say this out loud. Put a lot of work in because you feel like a developmental client to me to get you into a lot of meetings, to get you into a lot of offices. And so I'm going to need to get paid somehow. And so to get that happening, I'm going to be submitting you to commercials because I want to make some money somewhere. So that's just to know.
Yeah. If you have an agent, I'm sorry, I know you were going with another thought there, but if you have an agent and a manager, is there an expectation that they communicate regularly, especially if your manager submits you to stuff? I think it's a false expectation. Okay.
So some managers and agents do communicate pretty regularly. Usually what I have found is a working relationship with a manager and agent is at least everybody's looped in when you get an audition. When you get the audition.
Okay.
Now the agent could have gotten it or the manager could have gotten it and they're going to tell each other and then everybody's going to get the commission anyway. So no one really cares at that point. You may be able to tell where your auditions are coming from so that you can be really astute about, I don't think this manager is working out. I haven't had an audition come from them ever. They're all coming from my agent, but at least everyone should be looped in. You don't even need your manager and agent to like each other for it to be a good situation for you. I just want to make sure everyone gets that. So it's okay to go to your manager or agent to ask some support with the other person that's on the team here. But I just want to make sure they don't have to like each other. They just have to have relationships with different people because there's going to have different doors they have their hand on to open for you. So really, I think that we all hope that they're in communication in some way or another. And that there's a world, some of my clients have relationships where the manager and agent have all right, let's sit down all together and talk about pilot season for you this year, Helen. Let's talk about what it's going to look like. And they really have those kind of meetings. And some of them don't. They just kind of operate in their own silo, working for you separately. So I don't think it's wrong for an actor to want them to have some kind of, team-like feeling. But I also want to make sure your desire to want that doesn't mean that it will be more effective. So be mindful of, a desire that might outweigh what actually works. But again, you're still allowed to want that. So let's say you ended up with a manager and agent that you like, and they're doing their job, but you're like, I actually want them to be super communicative. Great. Then you could decide to get a new one. To me, it wouldn't be like the number one reason why I decide to get new ones, but that's a possibility.
Yeah. Makes sense. So, okay. So let's jump into reaching out to an agent or manager, whichever you prefer. Like, you always hear like, oh, I need a good show reel. I need a good headshot. I need this and this and this before I reach out to them. What do you say to that? Okay.
BS. Go back to 1998 and be an actor when those lies were true. So many things I have to say here. Let me get started first with this, because this is almost counterintuitive. This business has become, and because of 2020, it's even been put on steroids, I believe, an evidence-based business. So what does that mean? What that means is, rather than your resume or your reel, which we would count as like receipts to show you can do the job, right? Or that you are good at acting. Let's try differently. Receipts to show you are good at acting, your resume and your reel. Great. I need to see you do the thing that I'm going to call you in for instead nowadays, because self-tapes are so easy, I put in quotes, to do. And we all know they're not actually easy, but the perception
but very
is
common.
Like, yes, let's say that, right? So if I'm calling you in for funny, then I better see tape of you doing funny. Now, that isn't to say throw your reel out. That isn't to say a reel can't help you. I want to really make sure that's not what people are hearing here. But I do want you to hear that a self-tape can be enough. I want to hear this, say that one more time. You do not need a reel to get a manager or agent.
So you can submit a self-tape to a manager or an agent? That's what you're saying?
Yes. So just to be clear, I've helped 542 actors get representation. Mm-hmm. Of that amount, I would say 85% did not have a reel.
Wow.
And of that 85%, 100% were successful, just so we're really clear. Right? So just really want to narrow this in. You can think you have to have a reel. It can feel, here's the thing that's dangerous about this. It can feel good to have a reel and to worry about your reel, because you're like, oh, I'm going to get my foot. I'm going to look really good in it. And like, you can really like worry over your reel and feel good about yourself because you're worrying over your reel. Or you can say, that is a bunch of malarkey I picked up, and I can actually get a manager and agent. So I'm getting auditions for jobs I never would have gotten on my own.
Wow. Okay.
I really want to blast through that lie. The other thing is remember, on a self-tape, you're actually being seen at the same level that that a manager or agent sees their own clients, because they're seeing their clients self-tapes all the time when they're submitting them for auditions. So you're kind of leveling the playing field with you and the client. So one of the things that I think is so cool about that is, if you can submit an amazing self-tape, like, you're right up there with their clients. Your footage on your reel, now you're competing with people who've done series regulars and guest stars, and you've got so much more competitiveness there. When you're talking about self-tapes, you know what a good self-tapes look like. There's plenty of courses on that, or you can take one at a studio, or you can really get a coach and do all, like, you can make your self-tape look real. You have so much more power and control there. So I think that's really important. That's the reels.
Yeah. So with the self-tape, just one more on that.
Yeah.
Do you recommend then that people do let's say they're still up and coming? Do they do a scene from a film? Do they like what should they be doing in that self tape? Because when like for me, I get a self tape because it's for a part that I'm auditioning for. I don't.
Right.
That's the only time I ever do self tapes.
So what I would say is, no, don't do the ones you audition for, first of all. So I have like a 7-point checklist for this inside of my course. So I'm going to get everybody started today. I want you to remember, the person who's going to watch this tape is not a casting director. It is a manager or agent. Therefore, they're not trying to cast you in a role. So let go of the ideas of perspectives around, like, I got to make sure I look like the part, look like the character, look like fill in the blank. That does not matter at all. All that's off the table, because they are looking to you to say, does Milo know who he is as an actor? And can he do the thing? So that means, would I pull this scene from film or TV? Hell yes, because I know that's good, verified, validated writing that is good and out in the world. So that means I can pick from everything. That means Milo can pick a different gender to play inside of the scene. No one's going to know that, right? And you don't get in trouble. There's no copyright infringement. Unless you're selling tickets to your self-tape, you're going to be okay here, right? Now, I wouldn't do a scene from Pretty Woman, right? Like, don't pick like some famous movie that everybody knows. But the key to this is that it shows your castability. So we go down a black hole for that. I'm not going to do that right now, but just like
Yep.
that in the castability that we see Milo show us, because I'm a manager and agent who's in super judgment of you right now, because I'm deciding, is this dude worth my time for a meeting? Right. So the footage you share with me needs to make me believe that what you see about yourself, what you believe about yourself is what I see is true as well. So you can't be like, and now I'm going to put on my age makeup, right? That might be an extreme example here. But if you are someone who's usually playing a cerebral character, then I'm going to want to see you at least give me one tape that says that. Maybe you're going to give me another tape where it shows you in the comedic genre in the same kind of cerebral character, right? So that at least we're staying in your range. And if anyone's hearing this as some version of like, yeah, but I want to play this and I want to play that. And great. You freaking will play all those things. We're just trying to get someone to call you in for a meeting right now. Can we just chill it out? Like you need to have a meeting with them and talk about that. Right now, you need to say, this is what I think of it as. I think of the whole pitch to a manager or agent is if you go to a new restaurant and you read the menu, sometimes I can get super anxious because like I want to order like, what's the best thing that I can order here? I'll ask the waiter, I'll read the menu, I'll do all the things, right? You go by the description. Oh, it's got cilantro and it's got dates and it's got this. And these are things that I like. And so you start to imagine what that thing will taste like when you're at a restaurant. You go, I think I'd like to order that because it sounds like, oh, I love pork, right? Like I would love to, this sounds great. What we're trying to do in a pitch is say, this is what it's going to taste like. This is what's going to feel like to meet this actor. And then when you show up to the meeting, they get to go, did you match my expectations? Right? So we want to set the managers and agents up for success, that what they imagine about you is true. And those self-tapes are a huge part of that because those self-tapes are showing this is who Milo is. And this is what Milo believes he is in the industry. So there is some pressure on like trying to get the right scene chosen for these. The other thing about it, I think, is don't pick a scene where I have to do any work to understand what's going on. In the first 8 seconds, I need to know you, who you're talking to, what the relationship is, and what the problem is. Because if I don't, then I'm watching the scene to figure it out instead of watching the scene to figure you out. And that is a huge mistake that actors make all the time. Like they'll pick a sci-fi thing or a horror thing, which I think is really like awesome auditions, not great for a self-tape when you have to try to understand we're in a different world right now. Because people don't flip on your self-tape imagining, oh, I'm going to watch something about UFOs right now. They imagine they're going to watch something like Schitt's Creek or This Is Us or like a TV show where I put on quotes, people are normal. Like we're not in unworldly circumstances, nor that we have to do a lot of heavy lifting. You know, we want this to be something where I can enjoy watching it. That doesn't mean it can't be dramatic, but we want to delight this person and say, oh, this person gets them. I'd love to meet them. Right. Does that help answer the question?
It does answer the question. Yes. And along those lines, lengthwise.
So I have some rules around this, right? So I've said there's like those 7 steps to this, but here's what I'd say. You really got to freaking earn 2 minutes. You got to earn 2.5 minutes, right? So I like say like, can you do it in 90 seconds? Cool. It doesn't mean it can't, your second video couldn't be 2 minutes or 2.5, but you sure as shit better make me feel like I'm watching for a reason. Like there's the acting is changing. There's an arc in the scene. Something's going on here because more than that, you haven't earned because I don't know you yet. That's different for a reel, but just for a self-tape, I think that's about right. We're going to know in the first few minutes, seconds anyway. So that just gives them, remember, I'm judging you for how long of your tape is as well.
Oh, yeah.
Even if I haven't watched it, if you sent me a tape that was 4.5 minutes long, I'm already like, oh, this guy is an idiot. Because why would he send me a 4.5 minute long tape? Yeah. So we're trying to bring our most judgmental eyes to this. Because the way I like to think of the managers and agents is thinking of them. If you've ever seen the Muppets, I like to think of them as the little old men up in the balcony, or like Oscar the Grouch, or Ari Gold, or Miranda from Sex and the City, or Medea from Medea's Family Reunion, or Grumpy Cat. On the outside, they've got no times for you. They're grumpy. They're cynical. On the inside, they have this big, beautiful heart that beats for theater and performance and acting and TV and film, right? But if we imagine them being those grumpy cat kind of characters, we're going to write messages and share materials in a way that gets through and cuts through the noise. And so we're really clear with them. And so that's why I say, like, if you have a 4.5 minute scene, I'm not even watching them, or like, this person is dumb.
I can understand that. I know it's show reels versus self tapes, but I feel the same way about show reels.
Oh, for sure.
It's
for sure.
Like a super long show. It's like, really?
One note about show reels, if I can tell everybody, is Do not let me find any footage of you that looks where you look bad. I don't care if the footage is bad, but if your acting is bad, erase it from YouTube, make it disappear, because people will see it. Casting directors will Google it. People will find it. Just make it go away. There are two places in your career where I actually think you need to spend money, and you always have to have a Maserati: your reel and your headshot. Those are two places where it's always got to be great. Now, I'll just say this, because you mentioned this earlier, Miley. You said like people think they have to get a new headshot before they can reach out to reps. In the process that I use, I only want you to have one headshot that you love. That's it. You can get more later. The problem is, you and I both know people who've signed with managers and agents, and like the first meeting, let's get new headshots is like the first thing they say. So I like to try to cut that off at the pass. I don't know a lot of sports references. So cut that off at the pass, right? And be like, great, we're going to use one photo that works. And then the conversation can happen in the meeting. So I really want anyone who's thinking like, I'm not ready. If you've got one photo that's good enough, you've got enough.
And it needs to look like you.
Oh, hell yes. Don't confuse me. Okay. Again, remember, I would say I didn't brand this, but a confused mind says no. So if you show me one headshot and you told me one story in your email, then you show me a self-tape that's something else. They don't know who they are. Moving on. Next person. Delete. Right? Like we need to all be in of a piece. Right?
Makes sense. Okay. So what else then makes an agent want you?
So
you like how I use the mixed agent wants you?
Yes, well? I did like that. Yeah. So I love that. That's the name of my free class in case anyone's wondering why I'm saying that. So the big thing again and again that it comes down to is, I have this theory I'm working out right now. And it goes something like this. Please quit trying to be a cult leader, which means quit trying to get everyone to like you. We actually need some people not to like you. In fact, I think the actors who have the worst experience is an actor who reaches out to managers and agents and they get some middle-ish yeses, but they're the only person who said yes. So they're going to say yes to them. And then they drag that, what already started as a bad relationship, out for 2.5 to 3 years. And they've lost that time in their career because they were afraid to leave them because they're afraid to look for somebody else. And all that time has passed. And it hurts me and it hurts my heart because I know the actor during that time is probably tearing their hair out and getting new headshots and going to workshops and doing everything they can to make it work, but it never really started on the right foot. And to me, starting things on the right foot is, and this is the real crux of the whole process, is the willingness to be vulnerable around what's got in the way of your career looking exactly how you would like it to look today, and how you can say that to a manager and agent without sounding delusional, self-pitying, self-aggrandizing, entitled, right? Navel gazing. So that's like the dance that we do inside of the program, is making sure that it sounds vulnerable enough where I, the manager agent, can go, oh, I get this person. I understand this person, and also not worry about them, because no one wants to worry about you in a message that you're writing to them. And the other thing is, someone's going to tell you they didn't like you. Someone's going to tell you they didn't like your email. Someone's going to tell you you did this wrong and you shouldn't have reached out this way. That is going to happen. And thank God those people revealed themselves to you, because then the ones who are left that are still on your list, those are the ones that are that much more likely to respond to email number 2 and email number 3. Because we need people to say no. I think it is so vital. I would rather you get a no than a silence, because now we get to take them off the list, right? And so part of this comes down to cutting such a clear shape that someone who doesn't want you can reveal themselves, and someone who does want you can reveal themselves. So I'll give you some like extreme examples. An actress that I worked with who had great success, got a manager and agent. In her email, she talked about the fact that she had some of her family members die in a car accident. Now you might be like, how do you even talk about that without making someone worry about you? Why would you ever mention that in an agent email? Why would that matter? Right? Of course, we crafted it so that it wasn't somebody worrying about her, but in fact, making it clear how that has kind of shaped who she is as a performer without being annoying, right? Without being like too much about herself, for lack of another word. Of course, she got people saying, why are you telling me this? You shouldn't be telling me this. She also got the perfect match manager for the first time she's ever had in her life, who responded to that part of her email specifically. So her daringness to say, this is something that touched me, attracted the person who cares and who's ready to jump right in and be alongside her. Another one of my clients, actually I have quite a few clients who talk about a lot of I work with a lot of people, all different ages, but I would say a lot of the people who are in like the 50s, 60s range and up will often be concerned very, I think, realistically and honestly about like, is anyone going to care because of my age range that I'm at right now? I can fully say if you're listening and you're in that age range, 100% of the people who I've sent out in that age range have gotten representation. So you are wanted as a character, as a type right now. I want to make sure you hear that, everyone in that age range. So they often have to put in an email something that says something about taking a break. And more often than not, that we all understand what it means to like take a break from something. That's actually really easy for a manager or agent to grasp onto. It's harder to grasp onto the big long story than it is, oh, I took a break and now I'm back at it. They are responding to that really easily. But how do you talk about that break in a way that makes me feel like this person has always engaged as an actor and this person isn't just like fly by night now reaching out to me? That's the messaging we send there. And then I'll give one last example, which has come up a few times. All my moms out there who call out, you haven't heard from me before because I've been busy raising 3 kids. That email and the way we craft that, where it doesn't sound like an excuse, but it sounds like part of a really fulfilled and joyous life, that email always ends up in perfect match manager-agent relationships because they reveal themselves as people who understand moms and understand life. And guess what? All the people who are worried about getting pregnant or being a mom and balancing it with their new manager agent, instead of hiding it, what would it be like to be the reason why they said yes to meeting with you? So they understand when you can't put that self-tape in because you got the kid's soccer game the next day. When they understand when, oh my gosh, we just got pregnant, we're going to have our 3rd baby. And I don't know what that's going to mean for us. I'm going to take a break because they liked you that way in the first place. And what I want everyone to hear about this is so many times I see an actor who meets with the manager and agent, signs with them, and then is walking around with dread on their shoulders. Like, okay, I have to book the first commercial, or, oh my God, they're going to drop me because I haven't booked in a long time. What I want is a manager agent who falls in love with you for the story of who you are and who you're becoming, so that that stuff isn't part of the conversation. Of course, if you bombed every single audition for a year, we'd have to have a conversation like, are you going to see a coach? Like, what's going on? The manager agent wouldn't be doing their job. But for it to be not only about your receipts makes it such a more compassionate and seen relationship where you are both seen. And that's what I want to attract in for people. So hope that helps.
Yeah, it sounds like there's definitely something you're keying in on, or what I'm hearing is that being authentic, because as an actor, you often, especially with auditions, you walk in that room and you're thinking, what do they want? So you're walking in trying to be what they want. And often you don't get the part because you're just trying to be what they want versus being what's right for you. And I get the vibe that that's also very a key item when meeting with an agent or a manager is you need to basically let them know like who you are, because if you're walking in there trying to be what you think they want, they're not really going to be able to cast you because it's not authentic.
Yeah. And I think, and even to put an even finer point on it, at least in an audition, you're getting to act, even if you are trying to give them what they want.
Yeah.
In an agent or manager meeting, I think an actor even removes himself one step more, which is everything on my resume what you want? Not even me. Like, is everything on my resume enough? And is my headshot enough? And is my reel enough? Like, let's not even talk about me. Let's just talk about my materials. Are they enough for you to want to represent me? And it's vulnerable to say, oh, we're going to talk about me. And so that's why I think a lot of actors retreat here. And this is why I think it's so important to have a structure to follow up and take next steps, whatever, because it's so easy to be like, I feel seen. And I believe that feeling seen is a necessary part of this process. If you don't feel seen, then I don't think you're doing it well. And you should feel seen even in sending that first email.
We could talk forever, but we need to, on the flip side of it, when you're meeting with an agent, what kind of questions and what should you be looking for in the agent that might make you say, okay, this might not be the right agent for me, because you think, oh, yay, an agent said they want me, sign, right?
Yeah.
Because you're so excited to finally get an agent.
Give me the paper.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
But what should an actor be looking for that says, okay, maybe this isn't the right agent for me. Maybe I should keep looking.
Yeah. I'm going to skip any like obvious red flags. Like, they hit on you, or which I hope that doesn't have like anything that's totally inappropriate. Or they ask you for money, or you have to shoot with a special headphones. I'm going to skip. Definitely. I'm going to go to more elevated conversation. Because I don't think these are red flags. I think it's very nuanced. So I think that one of the things you want to leave an agent manager meeting with is, do they see me the way that I see myself? Or Did I learn something about the way I see myself? So I'm open to someone else's opinion. So if you walk it, I think a lot of actors work really hard to get clear on their branding. And I think it's a black hole that could take you way too much time. But that being said, if they see something different in you, do you agree with it? Or did you learn something from it? Or are you like, they definitely don't get me, right? Keeping in mind that a first meeting is not all the meetings you'll have with your new reps. So you don't have to accomplish everything in that meeting. So I think that's one important thing. Like, do they see the same kind of roles for me that I see for myself? That's an important piece inside of a meeting. I also think there's this thing that actors sometimes forget about, which is like, do you like them? Could you, if you were on set and suddenly they were like, actually, we're going to do this scene topless, and that was definitely not negotiated in your contract, or we have to smoke cigarettes, or they're asking me to do more spots without paying me more money. Like, could you actually pick up the phone and would you feel comfortable saying, hey, I'm in a crappy situation and I need some help? That's a really important question to ask yourself. And the other thing I want to just put here, the questions I'm talking about, don't ask yourself these questions in the meeting. In the meeting, I think it's really important to say, I'm going to steal from Oprah here. She says, whenever she's presented with new information in a meeting, she doesn't make a decision because that's new information. She's not obligated to make a decision when she gets new information. She says, I'm going to pray on that. So here she goes, I'm going to pray on that. I want you to have that attitude when you go to a manager agent meeting. You are not there to make a decision. You're there to collect information. You'll make a decision when you leave. So what I think of that is be a yes person while you were in that meeting. This is the first meeting of many that you're going to have with that agent. Now you could walk out the door and go, oh yeah, no, that's not for me. But leave that question out of the room, because when you bring that question in the room, you're not being yourself because you're being this third eye watching you and watching them. And I don't think you're your smartest self in that way. So rather than ask the question, you can have the questions you think you want to ask when you go in there, just kind of worked out for yourself. Like maybe you've practiced them or you wrote them down so you don't forget them. But when you get there, be present to this human being across from you and see what that's like. And when you leave and you've collected all that information, do not call your mom right away. Do not call your best friend. You're going to want to. Do not text anybody. Take a piece of paper and start writing things down in a notebook, what you reacted to so you don't forget, or record it on your voice memos or something. And then deep breath. If you need to call your mom, then call your mom, or call your best friend, whatever. And then you get to go, okay, what questions came up for me? And then you get to walk through, was I clear enough on this? Because sometimes it is I need to call them and ask, I didn't ask that question. Hey, Steve, it was really good to meet with you yesterday. I want to add one question I didn't ask you. I just need some help with this. Can you help me understand why you said da, 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 da? Very normal to have a check-in question like that. So let me go back to the kind of non-red flags, but things to look for is one, if they don't see you in the same way. And I'm talking specifically about what happens in the meeting. So I'm not talking about like doing research on IMDb and seeing if their clients are working. I'm talking about what's happening in the room. I think the other thing is, I don't know how to use the language. Like, did you feel pushed around? Is an energy that I kind of can bristle at. So, well, you should be doing this and you should be doing that. And are you doing this and are you doing that? Like if that's energy you want in your career, then you might not bristle at it. Brian Patacca, who's been coaching actors for over 20 years, would definitely bristle at like, I basically know how to do the business. Can you calm down? Right? You may not, and you might be very receptive and sponge-like. Great. Those are great ideas. When they're giving you ideas, if you don't agree with them, that doesn't mean they're not a match for you, but you're going to have to run that through your filter when you leave and say, do I like that idea? I would always ask, if you really want to have a full team, are you open to also bringing on a manager on? Are you open to also bringing on an agent? If they're a manager, managers often can also, I should have said this earlier, but managers can often also be the person who helps you get a theatrical agent or get a voiceover agent or get a commercial. They can be ones who help to navigate that. So if you're with a manager, I would ask, do you work in a way where you would be wanting to help me get some representation in some other areas? Because I do have some voiceover stuff I'd need some help with. So getting answers to those very practical questions. You might love a manager and they say, no, I don't really help people get agents. And you might go, okay, well, great. I'll get an agent on my own, but at least you know that now and you can make a clear decision. So it doesn't mean you can't bring all your hopes and desires to that meeting, but I do think it's important to reconcile your expectations afterward in a way that is going to make you feel great about saying, I do at the altar, saying yes to this, saying yes to the dress.
Is it also important with an agent as well to basically say, hey, look, you're focusing on my theatrical career. I'm going to get a separate agent for voiceover work or a separate agent for stage theater, that type of stuff?
Agents won't care as much about that, except I do think it's important if you're at an agency, like if you're at a smaller agency where they also do commercials and voiceover, you might say something. I'm just going to put my own little vote here. Most of the actors that I know are terribly loyal to their agents, sometimes to a fault. And so where I get worried when you work with an agency across the board, unless they're a bigger agency and you're at a certain level where you could really work with a Paradigm or an Innovative or a Gersh or somebody big like that, and they're really covering you in all the areas, I get worried that if you sign with a company across the board, you actor out there who's trying to do their due, and you're getting a bunch of commercial auditions, but you're getting zero theatrical auditions, it's going to be a hard conversation to go in and say, I'd love to stay with you commercially, but I need to leave you theatrically because it's not working out. And so I'm not saying actors listening aren't capable of doing that. You sure are, but that could be a more difficult conversation. So I sometimes like to think of it as you're not playing the field, but you're going to pick an agent into different companies to work with you in different areas. So I had a voiceover agent, I had a print agent, I had a theatrical agent, I had a manager, right? So different areas. And that way there's no muddied waters. And that doesn't mean it can't work to be across the board, but just to kind of think about, that's a decision you really want to think about. So a lot of times if you're reaching out to an agent to work with them theatrically and they say, we want to work out with you, we want to work with you commercially and maybe theatrically, you need to take that data that says, oh, they are not my theatrical person right now. They are probably just going to be my commercial. Maybe I'm not going to say yes to theatrical because I want to look around where someone really is excited about me theatrically. And I'm going to say, you know what, and that can feel hard.
I heard it.
That's Peacock. That can feel hard. The Peacocks agree. It can feel hard because you're going to say no to one thing they're offering you and yes to the other. But it's very different from saying, I don't want theatrical, I just want commercial, than saying, I am all in commercially with you guys. I think we can do a lot of great work together. And I know right now you're not necessarily sold on working with me theatrically. So I think I'd like to just sign commercially and we could talk about theatrically down the road.
Is that okay to do even if you don't have a theatrical agent?
Hell yeah. Now they might say, why wouldn't you sign with it? They're allowed to respond however they want to. They're human beings. They could say, well, why wouldn't you say? You would say, well, I think I'd love to see how commercial goes. And, I think that right now it seemed to me like you guys weren't like gung ho on theatrical with me. So I would want to let maybe in a few months, you might feel differently, but if I read that wrong, let me know. So just being open to that piece of the parts of the conversation, but I just see actors sometimes get pushed into commercial with a company and the company is sometimes promising theatrical or dangling the carrot. And they might not even be intentionally dangling the carrot. Sometimes the actor is dangling their theatrical department carrot in front of themselves and they've never dangled it. And so I always just say, like, be very clear with yourself what you're asking for.
What about, because there's so much now that's done remotely, like self-tapes are pretty much always the first round of auditions nowadays, people living everywhere. What about if somebody lives in the middle of nowhere, but they want to do some acting, they're able to potentially commute for auditions or something, but there's no local agents? Do they reach out to an LA agent? Do they reach out to whatever their local big city is?
Yeah, I will say I have tons of actors who do this. So I think of this one actor all the time. He has representation in LA, Paris, and London. First of all, who are you? I want your life, right? But I helped him get reps in those three cities because he travels between all of them. Sometimes he's not in the city at all, but he's getting an audition in Paris, but he's in LA. I have a client who's in Montana. She works all the time. She was in New York previously, and she's auditioning. She has a Montana manager, and she also has an agent in New York City working for her. She's probably going to also bring on an LA manager. So it's very possible to work in markets where you don't live. Here's the thing you just need to know. There are going to be managers and agents who will not work with you because you're not in the city where they are. And that is okay, because at their desk, they're not able to do that. But what we don't want to do is believe they're not a monolith, right? We're going to say managers and agents in LA don't work with people in different cities. That is a lie. Many of them may not. So it's our job to really make sure we're reaching out to casting a broad net so we can find the managers and agents who are. So I just always say, when you're doing that kind of a reach out, we have to remember you're probably going to get some, oh, you're not here, I'm not interested. You have to go, great, in one ear, out the other, because that manager doesn't do this. Let's go on to the next one. So you have to just don't put a lot of monolithic tendencies around. You have to be in the same city where you're having representation. So yeah, I think that, to go back on what you said, is I think that you should 100% find some representation on your home turf. So the closest big city, and then also a bigger market. So Atlanta, New York, Los Angeles, Chicago.
And how do people find, you often hear IMDb, look them up on IMDb is a common way to do that.
Sure. I mean, well, if you sign up for my course, I give you a database of each of these. So we spend a lot of time. Every single week, someone in my team goes through and combs through and corrects the email addresses, because it's a lot of work. There's 1,200 managers and agents in Los Angeles. There's 800 in New York. I think there's some 500 in Atlanta. I might have that number a little high. And so on your own, if you were doing this, I would start at IMDb. And what I would not do is do not create a target list. A target list is a bunch of BS that is, you're lying to yourself if you think you know anything about those managers and agents. To me, a target list is you deciding that you are more powerful than the universe because you've decided that that person is a good fit for you. When in fact, wouldn't it be so much more powerful to cast a broad net to as many managers and agents as you possibly can in whatever market you're living in and let them choose you? That's why that class is called Make Agents Want You, because the mistake we've been making is showing every agent in the world we want them, or showing 8 agents we want them, waiting for no's from them and then moving on. I think a target list is just a stalling practice because you're not willing to be vulnerable and to cast a broader net. I want to rely, I'm also a reverend, non-denominational, everybody. So I want to rely on the same force that animates the sun going around the earth going around the sun. I want to rely on that same force to help me find the right manager or agent. And I do that by casting a broad net and letting them choose me. I don't remember what your question was. Oh, it was about making lists. So making lists. So make that list healthy as fuck. Sorry, I said a bad word. Make it big as you can, right? It needs to be a big ass list. If you don't you dare send an email to 30 people, go back home and start writing that database. It needs to be in the hundreds. I want hundreds and hundreds. And don't research them at all. Just put them on the list. Once you get a meeting, then you do the research. If you're good, and you know what? Do the research enough to show up for the meeting, because after you take every single meeting you get, then you decide who you're going to sign with. So the worst that's going to happen in this process, I want to really zone in on this. The worst that happens is you take a meeting with a dipshit agent you're not going to sign with. That's the worst that happens. So I'm thinking of my client who was a series regular on a season of Grey's Anatomy, and she had 37 meetings that she got. She took every single one of them. Another one of my clients had like 1 TV credit. She got 36 meetings. She took every single one of the meetings. Can you imagine who you would be as an actor if you've gone to 36 meetings with representation? I'm not talking about like, I'd be exhausted. Don't go to those thoughts for a second. Go to the thoughts of how amazing would it be to sit across from 36 managers and agents who say to you, I want you. Because that's what are you going to learn about yourself in this business, and how plugged in are you going to feel after they've said certain things about your career to you? And then you've got this great swath of managers and agents who you didn't sign with, and you started working with one. And if for some reason it doesn't work out, they decide to become a plumber. My client, Sharon, she's the one who got the 36 meetings. Her agent is also a producer. Her manager also is a producer. And then started like, I'm really going to go full into producing and no longer managing clients. She had a really easy time going back to the 35 other meetings of people that she had meetings with and saying, hey, things have changed over here. How open are you to connecting again? Right. So I really encourage the broad net. And I think IMDb is a great place to start. You can also Google around. I think you can find people's websites sometimes when you Google, and you can find their email addresses that way. Some people have created like lists online that you'll stumble upon, that kind of thing. And just know you're going to get some bounce backs. There's going to be emails that come back because you got the wrong email address.
Now, let's say we're almost done here.
Yeah, great.
So we've kind of gone the whole the circle there. You have your agent. You just find it's not working. Do you start looking for another agent while you have that agent?
No, we don't have affairs. This isn't a soap opera.
Okay.
So I'll just tell you. Yes. Okay. So you're going to hire conflicting advice about this. There are people who say you do start looking while you're already with representation. I think when you get to a certain level in your career, it's more normal and more transparent. So what I mean by that is the peacocks agree. What I mean by that is if a manager and you have a very open relationship around like, hey, things aren't kind of working right now. I think that we should think about a change. And you can say this out loud, then that manager might be able to connect you to some agents that you've never met before. Or that manager, you might be able to say, I'm going to start reaching out on my own. Can I tell them to use your name and to give you a call, whatever? If you're going to start reaching out on your own, I think my value is that you say, I am making space in my life for a new manager. So I'm going to leave the one that I have now so that I can attract in that which I want, because you run the risk of 2 things happening. One, someone who wants to meet with you calling your manager because it's on IMDb or Actors Access or anywhere, Spotlight, whatever site you use, cast it, right? And they go, hey, is this your client? Because I got an email from her today that says she's looking for a manager. Is she still with you? The other thing you run the risk of is a manager meeting with you and saying, so you're still with your manager and you're meeting with me? And they feel like a slight, like, so is that what you would do to me? Like, are you slutting around? I'm totally sex positive here. I'm just saying that like, that's what someone's perspective could be, right? So I just want to cut that off at the bud. And I think there's something really like nip that in the bud and have a beautiful value around it. And, I'm a little woo woo. I really do believe that when you let go of somebody there, you make space for someone else to show up. The one thing that I'll add to this is, because I know a lot of people might be asking this question right now. You might be thinking about this when you're thinking about like, I want to take Brian's free class. Cool. And you might be like, but I already have an agent, so I'm not sure. Here's something to think about. If you already have an agent, instead of saying, let me drop my agent, why don't we just bring on a manager? If you already have a manager and you're like, I'm not sure if they're working, why don't we just bring on an agent? Because sometimes the energy of the new rep kind of fixes things. Some magic kind of starts to happen in that way. And I can't guarantee that. You might bring on the new agent and then go, yeah, manager's still not working. Cool. Let's just do the same thing. We'll get a manager. Now that we know how to get meetings, let's just do it again and we'll get a new manager. But I'm way more interested in having you renew your vows than divorcing. Not to use a marriage analogy, but sure. I did.
But it makes sense.
Right. And then the one thing I'll just caveat to all this is if you are with a manager and you decide, I'm going to go look at agents, I'm going to look for some agents to bring onto the team. Don't do that without telling them. Just make sure you say to your manager, remember, I'm not asking for permission here. Hey, Mr. Manager, I want to let you know, I'm going to reach out to some agents. And I just wanted to let you know, because you might get a phone call. Someone could reach out to you. Is there anybody you'd want me to make sure I add to my list? And that is not asking for permission. That is not asking them to do it for you. But that manager then could say, oh, actually, I could do that for you. Let me see if I can. Great. I would love you to do that. We can kind of tag team this. I'm going to reach out to some of the people you're not going to reach out to. We'll see. Let's see what we can stir up. Of course, do not worry, Mr. Manager. I won't sign with anybody without talking to you first. That doesn't mean you're going to ask their permission then either. It just means you'll talk to them first. Yeah. So I just want to make sure we stay in the driver's seat of your own career with this. But you can still be sure that you're looping someone, and you'd be a pretty crappy client if you didn't loop in your other rep on the process you were going on.
Yeah, great advice. Okay, You mentioned your course a little bit. Tell me a little bit about it if people want to find out more.
The best way to learn more is to watch this free training that is available to everybody. It's at makeagentswantyou.com. www.makeagentswantyou.com. I'm really proud of the URL. And it's a free training. It's about 75 minutes long. It will really introduce you to, first of all, you're going to watch that training and learn things. So you'll be able to put things into action the very same day that you can use to get managers and agents. And then, of course, in that free training, I give you the opportunity to join me inside of my course. But I just encourage you to check out that training no matter what, because we talked about writing an email. It talks about writing an email, a new approach to target lists, and then also kind of a way to bust through referrals, which we kind of didn't even talk about today. And so it'll train you in those methodologies of a new way to reach out. And then if you decide you want to join me, you can join. But either way, that free training packs a punch. So I hope you'll check it out.
Yeah, on this subject, exactly. We could talk forever and probably still not get through everything. So Stuff like that is certainly worthwhile that people can actually sit down and go through it in their time.
Right. Thanks.
Thanks. This was great talking to you. Any other social medias or websites? Oh,
yeah, for sure. I am always on Instagram. If you go to Brian Says That on Instagram, you can DM me or check out my content there. I try to deliver some pretty hefty stuff there, some freebies and stuff to keep people focused. I am, like I said, a non-denominational reverend, and I've been working with actors for over 20 years on the business. And I just believe the world's a better place when actors are working, because I believe human stories need to be told. When you look outside your window, when you turn on the news, when human stories are told, the world is kinder. And so I really believe it is your birthright to work as much as you want. And so you'll see that when you jump onto the Make Agents Want You, or you go to my Instagram, Brian Says That.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brian.
Yeah, for sure.